Is taking it all as a lesson.
The results and everything. This has been just what we needed to see. It's a wake-up call. People who think they're comfortable in this squad, we've all had a wake-up call of what we can do and what we can't do. And it's been, I said at the beginning of the month when we started on the 24th in the UK, in London, and I said, what we're going to do is we're going to learn so much about the players, so much about the character, so much about the commitment that is required, to do well, one, in this tournament, and two, which we're aiming for, is qualify for the World Cup.
Yeah, sad story. A defiant McLaren also maintains that the team is not lacking tactically.
We've had no consistency, and that will not get us to the World Cup. Consistency is key. You know what you're going to get, and we've not had that. We've not had that game to game. We've not had that in periods of the game. And you can talk about systems, and it's 4-3-3, it's 5-3-2, it's 3-4-3. Football is not about systems, it's about individuals, it's about character, attitude, working hard, being disciplined, knowing your job, doing your job. And in these 3 games, it's been a wake-up call for every one of us.
Before we get into the discussion with Leger, is just a confirmation that no CFU team made the quarterfinals, with Curacao and Guadeloupe also missing out on Tuesday, leaving the quarterfinal matchups looking like this: Panama versus Honduras, Mexico against Saudi Arabia, Canada against Guatemala, and USA against Costa Rica. Leger Williams is actually in studio, and the first question I'm going to ask you is, what do you make about football not being fully about tactics? The message Steve McLaren has sent to all of us in Jamaica.
Well, I mean, I would understand his train of thought more if Jamaica weren't getting tactically outclassed by practically every team they've been playing recently. I'm not a big fan of that notion. Obviously, you know, everything he said is true. It is about hard work and putting in the hard yards. But at the end of the day, when you're playing against a team and they have an obvious 2v1 verse against one of your players in a particular area on the pitch, that's not down to hard work. No player can overcome a numerical advantage or a tactical one by themselves. So I alluded to it on Monday when I was on Zoom. I know you missed me, so I made sure to be in studio, and I alluded to it, and I said that I had some strong words for the Jamaica team, win or lose, honestly, based on their Gold Cup performance. And what I will say, most definitely, based on every team I've seen so far in the Gold Cup, Jamaica and the Reggae Boyz at current is not a good football team. They don't do many things well, if any. I don't see many redeeming qualities, and I think that they're just pretty lucky that they have some of the best talents in CONCACAF to keep them afloat, because everything that I've seen, bar one game really.
But that's what I was going to say, the Unity Cup.
Yeah, the Unity Cup was decent, and then that Guatemala game at the National Stadium, that World Cup qualifier. But I think everything I've seen, bar that, it hasn't been very positive, and it leaves me in quite a negative space when thinking about the future of the team.
I know that we would have missed Isaac Hayden, and Steve McLaren did mention that, but to be fair to you, you pointed out issues that were with the shape of the team defensively. So even with a Hayden coming back or Mason Holgate coming back into the starting lineup, you reckon that fundamental issues are still there?
Yeah, most definitely. And you guys would have seen the long argument I had with, Kimani, one of our astute colleagues. Hey, Kimani.
You mean the goal connoisseur?
The goal connoisseur himself.
For schoolboy football, mind you.
Yeah. But he was saying that, he thinks that McLaren profiles his teams well. He doesn't at all. And I think that has been his fatal flaw so far.
Explain that for the novice.
Well, profiling a player is basically putting them or recognizing their skill set and putting them in an area to succeed. So an example of McLaren not profiling someone correctly would, for example, he's done this on several occasions, but putting Damian Lowe in a holding midfield area, for example, that doesn't optimize the skill set of Damian
I
Lowe.
think everybody can spot that. What are the other examples that he has misprofiled individuals?
I think when you look at it, because he did it yesterday as well, obviously I've been speaking about the defensive shape, and within 20 minutes, Jamaica were completely out of the game. Actually, rewatching the game, Jamaica only completed one pass in the 4-minute spell before Panama scored their opening goal. Only had 4 touches of the ball, and 2 of those touches, one was for Panama to win the corner, and the other one was a deflection of Leon Bailey for it to go past Andre Blake. So I think when you look at it, the first 20 minutes were a wash, 2-0 down already. You saw Andre Blake take the tactical timeout, and right after that, they changed things around, and they changed it to I would say a 5-2-3 system / 3-4-3. I wonder which brilliant young football analysts would have said that, that would be the system to go with. But I'm not sure. But they did it anyway. And for the rest of the first half, Jamaica were the dominant team. Yes, Casey Palmer made a boneheaded decision and, gave away a penalty. But I would say Jamaica created chances. They got a goal because of that systemic change. And then at halftime, they came out. They didn't change the system too much, but the changes that were made were extremely negative, in my opinion. Bringing on Greg Lay to come and be a left wing back, he didn't play badly by any stretch of the imagination, but if you would have seen my illustration last week, I was saying that Cephas should be in that area, because what Cephas does well is, at the end of the day, he's rapid, doesn't always have the best final action, but he's very good at beating his man and getting across him. You want to have him as wide and on the touchline as possible. He brought on Cephas and was playing him in almost a inside forward role in that half space. That doesn't optimize Cephas. Bringing off Warner Brown, I have no problem with taking off your striker, but you have other strikers on the bench. Borrell, Michael Antonio. He put Demari Gray into that central space. At that point, Jamaica would have no reference point or player to hold up the ball or to have box presence for the crosses that were coming in. So that's what I think, another example of misprofiling players, and it really stifled Jamaica. I was saying the game was done, I'm not going to say that Jamaica would have come back and did anything, but I do think that it's just example after example, time after time, where I don't see any real, I'm not going to say I don't see any real thought, but I don't see any real tactical astuteness from the Jamaican team, and it's very unfortunate given the quality of players that Jamaica have, because now we're in a predicament. I'm sure you've seen it all across social media whenever a Jamaican game is played, and not only singling out a Leon Bailey, but so many players are saying, this guy is rubbish, this guy is not good.
And it's unfair to them.
It's extremely unfair to them because they're not being put in situations to succeed.
Yeah, and when I listened to that press conference, something that really stood out to me, Liz, and maybe I'm reading it wrong, which is why you're here, is that, this is probably a wake-up call. Coach went on to say that. And he added that, a lot of the players probably appear too comfortable and that no position on the team is guaranteed and all of that. But then I'm listening on the other hand, because when these results come, of course, the population is going to be upset. A World Cup spot is on the line and everything. People are calling for coach now. They're saying, you're not making any sense anymore. It's time for coach to go. So it's a two-part question. One, what do you make of players apparently being too comfortable in these positions? And are the critics or the supporters of the Jamaica team being too harsh on coach?
Well, to answer your first question, I do think that players are too comfortable, but I think a lot of that is down to coaching, because there's several facets to coaching. It's not only being tactically astute, it's not only profiling the players well, but a big part of coaching is motivation, getting your players going. That's the first aspect that you try to get in properly. So I think a lot of the players are comfortable because of the system that's already in place by Coach McLaren. And to answer your second question, do I think that Steve McLaren is the best coach to get the best out of the Reggae Boyz going into this World Cup qualifying campaign? No. Do I think that they will sack him? No as well. So it's not up to me, obviously, and this is a situation that the team faces. They'll just have to make the most out of it. And I will say, despite all of this negativity, somehow, some way, I still do have a feeling that Jamaica will find themselves at the World Cup.
I feel so too. Lance?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you that because a lot of Jamaicans have become despondent about the World Cup prospects, even though when the groupings were drawn, it was felt that the group was easy enough for the Jamaicans to get through. But given the poor performance at the Gold Cup, I see a lot of Jamaicans now second guessing and wondering if they will in fact get through. But you just said that you think they will.
Yeah, it's not necessarily because of anything tactical or anything I would have mentioned before, and well, it is because of something I mentioned before, and it's because I think that Jamaica have some of the best players in CONCACAF. And when it comes down to player quality, I think you eventually tell and lead them to having positive results during that 6-match window, and hopefully it will be enough for them to qualify.
But for you to be correct on that, Lish, as we get ready to go to a break because we are out of time, something has to happen between now and September for Coach McLaren to get things right. What are the possibilities? Because the players will soon enter pre-season, most of them based in Europe. And I'm not sure if they will have that time together as a preparatory period to get themselves ready for World Cup qualifying.
I mean, two things. Well, one, you're very right that they won't have that time, but good coaches don't need time. To set up a system and set up a team properly, good coaches don't need time to look coherent.
We saw a glimpse of it already.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we've seen glimpses, but as the coach would have mentioned, they haven't been consistent in any facet. They haven't been consistent throughout one game where they've just dominated no matter the opponent. So, as I said, a lot of it is just down to player quality. I don't think that we'll see too much tactical change, but if they do need a tactical change, as I said, a certain young, brilliant analyst gave them the blueprint.
We're going to
Let's
tell
see if
him.
they can move on.
Yeah, whoever that is got to go now. So thank you so much for stopping by. Always a good time when you're here.
And for depressing us as usual.